Welcome to Mythic Mental Mondays. On Mythic Muscle, I often pepper in bits of wisdom, or I'll briefly extrapolate a lesson from the tale we cover. But I don't think that's quite enough. Fitness is a holistic practice. Body and mind, spirit and person. In our fourth and final subseries of Mythic Muscle, we'll be exploring that principle. Each Monday, I'll share some takeaways I've accrued over the entirety of my exploration of ancient cultures, philosophical undertakings, and some of the tools that have gotten me through the roughest of times. My life certainly hasn't been short of strife, and because of that, I've always wanted to create a tool to help people reorient their perspectives. I won't be blindly spitting axioms and one-liners at you, telling you that you need to be this way or you'll never get ahead unless you do X or Y. That's not really my style. I'm here to help you build yourself up, in more ways than one, of course. There won't be any self-promotion in this series. My hope is someone out there needs to hear something in this episode, and it'd be a shame if that person clicked the link but didn't make it past the intro. If you're looking for some fitness advice, or the usual dramatic retelling of a fable, myth, or folklore, go check out Mythic Muscle, Just the Fit, or Just the Myth. For now, though, let's get into how we can build a Mythic Mental. Stoicism. A weapon to battle your emotions, or a tool to help tend an unruly garden. Sometimes it's a bit of both, and oftentimes it's misappropriated by antagonistic icons who know full well what they're doing and who they're benefiting from. I deeply resent the actions of those people. Here's an attempt to make amends on their behalf. We're going to dive into a few archetypical Stoic discourses, sayings, and fundamental teachings that you can apply the minute you close the episode. Or, if it's not your thing, don't stress. Thank you for listening, I hope you can find something of use here, and if you can't, I wish you the best. There's a quote from Epictetus's discourses that goes a bit like this: "We must make the best use that we can of the things which are in our power, and use the rest according to their nature." In essence, Epictetus basically lays the foundations of all Stoic belief in one sentence, which I believe is the beauty and greatness of Stoicism. While the axioms presented can be used as quips to pretentiously claim false superiority, they can also very quickly turn to mantra. There might be something on your mind, something coming up ahead of you that you cannot stop, you know it's there, and you do everything in your power to ignore that pit in your stomach. I've been there. And I've personally found comfort in recalling quotes like the one before. Instead of focusing on ignoring it, it might serve one better to embrace that it's beyond your reach, that right now in this moment you could change the behavior and dial in on things of greater import. The previous quote goes hand in hand with my all-time favorite Stoic saying: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Seneca wrote this in his 13th letter contained within the greater body of work titled Letters from a Stoic. I find there to be an unequivocal truth to the saying. The root of anxiety is the unknown. Obviously, a clinical diagnosis is a different story, but for an individual not so cursed, anxiety is just the body's response to an uncertain outcome. If you're an individual who has a marked history of supremely stressing out for an upcoming event, so much so that it's affected your day-to-day, but then once you actually get to the event and get past it, you look back and say, that wasn't so bad. These teachings are specifically important to you. And you are definitely not alone. Moreover, it's like a hand-drawn warning label. The reason the label was written saying, "Don't touch the candle, signed management," is because someone touched the damn candle. Stoics from thousands of years ago wrote these teachings because clearly people were struggling with the specific content of said teachings. And Stoicism is effectively just that. Handwritten label to help people avoid touching the candle as they had done before. While I do not believe Stoicism to be dogma, nor do I really think dogmatically subscribing to anything is particularly healthy, the aspects of timelessness ring true of the human condition, and I think that is most certainly difficult to cast aside. To immediately counter me, though, Heraclitus steps in with, "There is nothing permanent except change. All things live in a constant state of change. Each molecule of each thing surrounding you, including yourself, is undergoing hundreds of processes every second. Most things don't seem too bothered by this, and were it not for those processes, they wouldn't even exist to be bothered. Things are going to occur. Bad, good, otherwise, change will come. How you react to the change is fully within your control." As I write this, I had a vehemently terrible day. In truth, I'd rather not be writing this. I'd rather be in bed focusing on anything but the day. But all of the things that went wrong today were simply changes. Changes made, some out of my power, some well within, but they culminated in this extreme discomfort I feel. There's nothing stopping me from just going and sleeping it off, except for myself, except for the way that I'm able to reframe the events of today. And because of this reformation, I'm able to put it all into a greater perspective. Bad changes don't need to incur more bad changes. The same can be said for habits, thoughts, or any behavior in general. Only you retain the power to disallow a chain reaction of bad changes. Instead of calling it a day, I'm writing. Some days I wouldn't have the strength in me to do so, and that's fine too, but if there are more of those some days than just a bad day, that requires effort. A disciplined, coordinated effort. Giving oneself grace is good, giving oneself too much grace will result in the worst form of change: stagnation. Zeno of Citium, the founder of the Stoic belief, has a call to action. Steel your sensibilities, so that life shall hurt you as little as possible. A lot of Stoic quotes revolve around the idea that the only pain one can truly endure is pain inflicted upon oneself, that you are the author of your own diagnosis. I cannot, in good conscience, completely agree. The unexpected death of a loved one hurts. To be completely desensitized to it, or to shut those feelings out with extreme productivity, is wildly unhealthy. And I think Zeno here agrees. My interpretation of the quote is this: you have power enough to ensure that the ill things that fall upon your shoulders do not crush you, merely bruise you. There will be events in your life that will harm you, but steel yourself against the lesser evils cast upon you, so that you might harden your skin to sharper blades. If you find yourself aggrieved by every minor insult, or you find yourself quick to temper when things don't arrive as perfectly as you expect them to, this advice is particularly important for you. Most things are not catastrophic, and most insults do not need your attention. Instead, think of them like calluses for your mind. When you first enter the gym, your hands are soft. They'll bleed, they'll hurt, the skin will crack and break, but by the time you've built an incredible physique, your hands are the perfect mirror to reflect your tenacity. There is nothing more tenacious than a person who takes events in stride, a person who can find peace when war rages around them. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most famous of Stoics, reminds us of this. It isn't manly to be enraged, rather gentleness and civility are more human, and therefore manlier. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Despite my total agreement of this in the realm of what I think proper masculinity is, I don't believe this to be solely exclusive to manhood. Compassion and empathy are perhaps the only two emotions that separate humans from beasts. Humans possess an extreme natural abundance of both, whereas our counterparts are not so blessed. Why then, in times of misgiving, do we resort to rage? Do we resort to feelings of helpless, unyielding intensity? The most inspiring stories are those of great perseverance in the face of even greater adversity. Rage does not bring perseverance, it brings perilous aggression, quick to burn out and leave one in a state of true, vulnerable weakness. Unwavering calm, bountiful compassion, and a gentle hand can only serve to assist in one's edifice, and will command respect from those around oneself. I could spend hours upon hours reading through Stoic literature and translating it for you, all in hopes that something sticks and you find it within you to better yourself day in and day out. But you'd be much better off pouring through the literature yourself. The best lesson is the one learned firsthand. So some recommendations. Epictetus's Enchiridion is great, but a bit dense and archaic. Discourses is dense, but a little easier to adapt to modern method. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations are the staple of most Stoics, and I couldn't recommend them more. Letters of a Stoic by Seneca is easygoing and quotable. Heraclitus's Fragments is a short burst of unending wisdom. You'll put it down, and it won't put you down for a long time. And for something current, Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way. While not being a Stoic piece, certainly is Stoic adjacent and follows much of the same tenets. I'm gonna leave you with one last message I think everyone probably needs to hear. Treat yourself with grace and sensibility, but also like a finely crafted weapon. Keep it sheathed, but keep the edge sharp. Judge others less than you judge yourself. With that, I have been your host, Benjamin Cloud. This has been Mythic Mental Mondays on the Mythic Muscle Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful day, a phenomenal lift, or, if it's a rest day, some time for yourself. Take care.